Hello students, how are you all? I hope you are keeping good. So dear students, so now we are going to see the concept Introduction to Professional Social Work, in that the perspective of social work practice in major ideologies in India. So we already know the ideology of major religion. So Hinduism, Vedic and non-Vedic ideologies, Christianity and Islam. So now we are going to see the ideology of major personalities. Ideology of major personalities. The word it only we can understand. Ideology of major personalities. The major personalities are, they were giving their own ideology in a social work perspective. So who are they? The first one is, so Gandhian ideology. So Mahatma Gandhi ideology about the social work or his reformations. So we are going to see. So what is Gandhian ideology? Gandhian ideology is a set of religious and social ideas adopted and developed by the Mahatma Gandhi. First, during his period in South Africa from 1893 to 1914, and later in India. Gandhian philosophy is not only a simultaneously a political, moral and religious, it is also traditional and modern, simple and complex. So ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳೇ, ಗಾಂಧೀಜಿಯವರ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ ಏನಿದೆ, it is not only a political, moral and religious, it is also traditional and modern. ಸೊ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತವನ್ನು ಅವರು as well as ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನಲ್ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ideologies are introduced by the Mahatma Gandhi ji. So it is a simple and complex that each and everyone they can follow that ideologies. So it will not feel like a burden of his ideology. So it is a very simple and complex. It embodies numerous Western influences to which Gandhiji was exposed, but is rooted in ancient Indian culture, harnessing the universal moral and the religious principles. The philosophy exists on the several plans: the spiritual or religious, moral, political, economic, social, individual and the collective. The spiritual or religious elements and the God are at its core. God are at its ಕೋರ್. ಸೊ ದೇವರು ಅಂತರಂಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತವನ್ನು ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಬಹುದು. ದ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಚುವಲ್ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನೋಡುವಂತದ್ದು. ದ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಇಸ್ ರಿಗಾರ್ಡೆಡ್ ಆಸ್ ದ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲಿ ವರ್ಚುವಸ್. ದ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ನೇಚರ್ is regarded as the fundamentally virtuous. So virtuous means what? So virtuous means it nothing but ಸದ್ಗುಣಶೀಲತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. The human nature is regarded as a fundamentally virtuous. Fundamentally virtuous. So next point, all individuals are believed to be capable of high moral development and of reform. Gandhian ideology emphasis not on idealism but on a practical idealism. So we know that students, what is idealism? Idealism means nothing but ಆದರ್ಶವಾದ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ. So Gandhian ideology emphasis not on Adarshavada. So together it gives more importance on the practical idealism. ಪ್ರಾಯೋಗಿಕ ಆದರ್ಶವಾದವನ್ನು ಇದು ಪರಿಪಾಲನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಯಾವುದು? ಗಾಂಧಿಯನ್ ಐಡಿಯಾಲಜೀಸ್. So Gandhian philosophy is a double-edged weapon. So Gandhian philosophy is a double-edged weapon. So its objective is to transform the individual and society simultaneously. So why the Gandhian philosophy is called as a double-edged weapons? Why we calling like this? So because of such reason, the objective of his philosophy is, it tells that transform the individuals and society simultaneously. So their intention is to ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ದ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ಸ್. ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಮತ್ತು ಸಮಾಜವನ್ನು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಥವಾ ಪರಿವರ್ತನೆಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದೇ ಇವರ ಐಡಿಯಾಲಜಿ ಅಥವಾ ಇವರ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಅಕಾರ್ಡೆನ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಟ್ರೂತ್ ಅಂಡ್ ನಾನ್ ವೈಲೆನ್ಸ್. ಸೊ we know that. So in his ideology we can see the more importance on the truth and non-violence. So I hope you know this. So truth and non-violence, it indicates what? So let's see in next slide. Yes, let's see the major ideology of Mahatma Gandhi ji. So which are the ideologies of Mahatma Gandhi ji used in his entire reformation movement? The first one is the truth and non-violence. So they are the twin cardinal principles of the Gandhian thought. So that is a twin cardinal principle. Twin cardinal principle in the sense that truth and non-violence, it should be in a together. It should be in a together. So in his ideology. For Gandhiji, truth is the relative truth of the truthfulness in the word and deed, and the absolute truth, that is ultimate reality. Ultimate reality. So one is a relative truth. Truth is a relative truth of a truthfulness in word and deed, and the absolute truth, that is the ultimate reality. So this ultimate truth is a God. So ultimate truth is a God, and morality, the moral laws and code, its basis. So its basis. Next, non-violence. Non-violence are far from a meaning a mere peacefulness or the absence of overt violence. Absence of overt violence. And non-violence, in that particular boundary, we are not going to see any kind of the overt violence. So they were giving the more importance for the peacefulness. Peacefulness is understood by the Mahatma Gandhi ji to denote active love, the people opposite of a violence. Pole opposite of the violence. So that is the pole opposite of the violence. So non-violence, it is a complete opposite of the violence. Okay, in every sense, not only particular, in every sense. So non-violence or love is regarded as the highest law of humankind. So love is regarded as the highest law of humankind. So according to his ideology, so Mahatma Gandhiji's ideology, so they were giving more importance to the love or the non-violence. So non-violence, we should not harm anyone. So that is their ideology. That is their ideologies. Even particular way they were saying that it is the highest law of humankind. ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಅತ್ಕೃಷ್ಟ ಅಥವಾ ಉತ್ಕೃಷ್ಟವಾದ ಗುಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನ್ ವೈಲೆನ್ಸ್. ಅದರಿಂದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಏನಾದರೂ ಅಚೀವ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಅವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So next, satyagraha. So next ideology is the satyagraha. So you students know very well, you learned it before itself, isn't it? Gandhiji called is the overall method of non-violent action, satyagraha. Non-violent action is a satyagraha. Instead of attacking someone, so they were doing the satyagraha without harming anyone. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ harm ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. So wherever they were not going to create a nuisance and violence in the society, but peacefully they were going to do something in society. Okay, so that is their ideology of satyagraha. It means that exercise of the purest soul force against the injustice and oppressions and exploitation. So why they need to do the satyagraha? ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅವರು ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹ? So simply unnecessary, if they find any kind of problems in the society, they were going to call the satyagraha? No. So when they are fail to get justice, and oppression and exploitations of some other, so during that particular time they can call or they can think of the satyagraha. It is a method of security rights by the personal suffering and not inflicting a injury on others. So it is a method of the securing right by the personal sufferings. So ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ನ್ಯಾಯದಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ನ್ಯಾಯ ಪಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಲ್ಲಿ ವಂಚಿತರಾಗ್ತಾರೋ ಅಂತಹ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಈ ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಟೈಮ್, ಸೊ ಹಾಗಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಇಂಜುರಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಆಗ ನಾವು ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಈಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಎನಿ possibility to kind of any kind of progress? No, very difficult, isn't it? ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಇಂಜುರಿ ಆಯ್ತು, ನಾವು ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಸತ್ಯ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, isn't it? ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹ ಯಾವಾಗ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ತನ್ನ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಸಫರಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ತಮ್ಮ ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನು ಬಗೆಹರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಿಂಜರಿತಾರೋ ಅಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಸತ್ಯಾಗ್ರಹವನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವಂತದ್ದು. The origin of satyagraha can be found in the Upanishads and in the teachings of Buddha, Mahavira and number of other great including Tolstoy and the Ruskin. So, this Satyagraha concept not only Mahatma Gandhi's ideology, it also mentioned in the teachings of Buddha and Mahavir. Mahavira ಮತ್ತು ಬುದ್ಧ ಯಾರಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅದೇ ತರ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳು, the great personalities they were introducing about this. Okay, next ideology is the Sarvodaya. Next ideology is the Sarvodaya. The word it's only we can understand Sarvodaya. Sarva Udaya. Sarvara Udaya, that is Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya is a term meaning so universal uplift. Universal uplift or the progress of all. Sarvara Udaya. Ellaru alli avaru progress ಅನ್ನು ಪಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತದ್ದು. The term was the first coined by the Gandhiji as the title of the translation of the John Ruskin's tract on the political economy unto this last. So ಈ ಸರ್ವೋದಯ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯಾರು? ಮಹಾತ್ಮ ಗಾಂಧೀಜಿ. ಸೊ ಇವರ ಮೇನ್ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಏನಿತ್ತು? ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವಂತದ್ದು ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲಿ ದೇ ವರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ so individually they have the enough the better economy or political rights. That is not enough according to Gandhiji. So in his ideology he was giving more importance on the Sarvodaya or the progress of all. So next ideology is the Swaraj. Although the word Swaraj means a self-rule, so Gandhiji gave it the content of an integral revolution that encompasses all spaces of life. For Gandhiji, Swaraj of people so meant that sum total of the Swaraj of individuals, and so he clarified that for him Swaraj meant a freedom for the meanness of his countryman. So society ಇರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸರಾಸರಿ ಜನಸಂಖ್ಯೆಗೆ ಇದೊಂದು ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ರೂಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ತಂದು ಕೊಡ್ತದೆ. And in its fullest sense, a Swaraj is a much more than freedom from all restraints. So it is a self-rule, self-restraint, and could be equivalent with the moksha and salvation. So in the society, so in olden days, we can see there are problems in society. In common people, they don't have right to take any kind of decision in their entire life. So they are always dependent. They don't have kind of self-rules and self-restraints and self-restrictions among their work or day-to-day lives. But the Swaraj gives a kinds of self-rules in the every individuals. Self-rules for the every individuals. So next one is the trusteeship. Next ideology is a trusteeship. So trusteeship is a socio-economic philosophy that was propounded by the Gandhiji. It provides a means by which the wealthy people would be the trustees of the trust that look after the welfare of the people in general. So it means nothing but in the society, the persons who are wealthy in their economy. So they were take care of the generals or people in generals. So who are suffering. So that's why they consider they were the trustees of the trust. So wealthy people are the trustees of the trust. So next, this principle reflects the Gandhiji's spiritual development. So which is owed partly to his deep involvement with and the study of theosophical literature and the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, next. And next ideology of Mahatma Gandhiji is the Swadeshi. So it indicates what? It says, so we should use the product of our own country instead of that consuming the other country's product. So Swadeshi, the word Swadeshi derives from the Sanskrit and is the conjunction of the two Sanskrit words. Swa means the self or a own, and Desh means a country. So Swadeshi means one's own country. Swadeshi, the adjectival form. So means of one's own country, but can be loosely translated in the most context as a self-sufficiency. So instead of that, we can consider it as a self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency in the sense, so what we want or what are requirements we should produce in our country, or self we try to produce. Okay, so Swadeshi is a focus on acting within and from one's own community, so both politically and economically. So it is the interdependence of community and self-sufficiency. So it is an interdependence of community and self-sufficiency. So Gandhiji believed this would lead to independence or Swaraj, as British control of India was rooted in control of her ideologies, industries. So Swadeshi was the key to the independence of India. Swadeshi is the key to the independence of India. So why? Because in olden days we are depending on the other countries and we are consuming. So there is one force to consume the other country's product. So forcefully we are consuming the other country's product. So instead of, so while when they introducing the Swadeshi, it gives changes in Indian society, kind of changes in Indian society. They are trying to produce their needs in their country, in our country. So that's why. So represented by the charaka. So we know that the Gandhiji introduced the charaka or spinning machine. But the spinning machine he produced something, isn't it? So center of the solar system of Mahatma Gandhiji's a constructive progress. Constructive progress. So these all are the ideology of Mahatma Gandhiji. So in next we are going to see the one more the major personalities, that is a B.R. Ambedkar. B.R. Ambedkar.
Major personalities are B.R. Ambedkar. B.R. Ambedkar. So his full name is Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. So introductions about the Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. He is popularly known as Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Was one of the main architects of the Indian Constitution. So he is the architects of the Indian Constitution. So he was a very well-known political leader. So he is a very well-known political leader, philosopher, writer, economist, scholar, and a social reformer who dedicated his life to eradicating untouchabilities and other social inequality in India. He was born on 14th April 1891 in Madhya Pradesh in Hindu Mahar caste. He was born on 14th April in Madhya Pradesh in Hindu religion, so that is a Mahar caste. So he had faced a severe discriminations from every corner of the society, as the Mahar caste was viewed as untouchable by the upper class. See, so Bhimrao Ambedkar, so why he is going to give contribution to the society, especially in the untouchabilities. So even we know that already. So Ambedkar was born in one Hindu family, that is in Mahar caste. So this caste is so discriminated by the upper class people in the society. So because of that reason, so he suffered a lot and he maintained to reduce that type of behavior in the society. So he tried to reduce that untouchability in the society, and because of untouchabilities, it is affected to their mentally as well as emotionally in the society, isn't it? So discrimination is not a concept of easily accepted situations, isn't it? So nobody accepts this easily. So that's why they were thinking about some kind of reformations we should think of beyond the discriminations and reduce the discrimination in the society. Okay, next. So main architect of Indian Constitution. Baba Sahib Ambedkar's legally expertise and knowledge of the constitution of different countries was very helpful in the framing of the constitution. He became chairman of the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly and played an important role in framing the Indian constitution. Among others, his most important contributions were in area of fundamental rights and strong central government and protection of minorities. So his main contributions or important contributions we can see in the fundamental rights. So which are the fundamental rights? I hope you students know the fundamental rights. So normally which are the fundamental rights? So right to equality, right to education, right to right against exploitation. So these all are the right to freedom. So these all are the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. So by getting these fundamental rights, he put lot of efforts. He put lot of efforts. So next, Article 32 guarantees a judicial protection to the fundamental rights, which makes them a meaningful. For him, Article 32 was the most important article of the Constitution, and thus he referred to it, the soul of the Constitution and very heart of it. So he referred it as the soul of the Constitution and the very heart of it. He supported a strong central government. He supported a strong central government. He was afraid that casteism is a more powerful at the local and provincial levels, and the government that this level might not protect the interest of lower caste under the pressure of upper caste. So he supported the strong central government. So he was afraid that the caste system is more powerful at local and provincial level. So why he planned about the strong central government? Because of afraid of casteism in the society, afraid of casteism in the society. The lower caste people, how they can survive in the society because of the pressure of upper class people. So they dominate the people very much. They dominate the people very much. And a government at this level so might not protect the interest of lower caste. So, however, the central government so they were not protect the interest of lower caste people because of the pressure of upper caste people. Pressure of upper caste people. So democracy. Democracy is also one of the important concepts we can see under the contribution of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. He had complete faith in democracy. So Baba Sahib Ambedkar had the complete faith on a democracy. See, even we also know that the democracy, how it is useful in the society, and because of the democracy, how we are leading the life in present situation. So while dictatorship may produce a quick result, it cannot be a valid form of government. Democracy is a superior as it enhances a liberty. He supported the parliamentary form of democracy, which aligned with the other nation leaders. Next, he emphasized a democracy as a way of life. So Baba Sahib Ambedkar, so he emphasized what? The democracy as a way of life. In example, democracy not only in the political sphere but also in the personal, social and economic sphere. So democracy ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರಜಾಪ್ರಭುತ್ವ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಸ್ಪೇರ್, ರಾಜಕೀಯ ಒಂದು ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಮಗೆ ಡೆಮೋಕ್ರಸಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದ ಡೆಮೋಕ್ರಸಿ ಇನ್ instead of personal life. So instead of political, we can see the personal. We can see our personal life, our social life, and economic life. So democracy sustains these all factors. So social reforms. Next, so what is the social reforms of Baba Sahib Ambedkar? ಯಾವ ಸುಧಾರಣೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸಮಾಜದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ. So Baba Sahib had devoted his life to remove untouchability. So his main intention is removal of untouchabilities in the society, because so he suffered a lot in that concept. Okay, so he believed that the progress of the nation would not be realized without the removal of untouchability. So he believed what? The progress of the nation would not be realized without the removal of untouchability. So ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ರಿಮೂವ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ವೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ತರ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ವ್ಯರ್ಥ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಯಾರು ನಂಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರು ನಂಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. So which means the abolition of the caste system in totally. So because of the untouchabilities, so this abolished the caste system in the society, caste system in society. He studied Hindu philosophical traditions and made a critical assessment of them to study or to removal of untouchabilities. For him, untouchability is the slavery of the entire Hindu society. So untouchability, so in the sense, it is a slavery of Hindu society. Slavery of Hindu society. The upper class people, they treated a lower class people as the slaves. ಗುಲಾಮರಾಗಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. So while untouchables are enslaved by a caste Hindus. So while untouchables are enslaved by the caste Hindus themselves live under a slavery of religious sculpture. So slavery of religious sculpture. ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕ ಗುಲಾಮಗಿರಿಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ಬದುಕಬೇಕಾದಂತ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕಾಣಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಗ್ತದೆ. So the emancipation of the untouchables lead to the emancipation of the whole Hindu society. So emancipation of the untouchable leads to the emancipation of whole Hindu society. ಸೊ ಇಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸಿಪೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ವಿಮೋಚನೆ. ಸೊ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇಂದ ವಿಮೋಚನೆ ಆದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಹಿಂದೂ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು ಸರಿಯಾದ ಮಾದರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಜೀವನ ನಡೆಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಇವರು ನಂಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿಯ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಸುಧಾರಣೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ತಂದು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾರು? ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್. Yes, so let's see what are the methods adopted to remove the untouchabilities. So first one is the creating the self-respect. So it's a step of creating awareness among the people's mind. Okay, so creating the self-respect among untouchables by removing the myths of inherent population that has influenced their minds. So it's creating the self-respect among all the people. So each and everyone has their own self-respect. So we should review again. So actually because of the pressure of upper class people, so they regret everything. Okay, they regret the self-respect of individuals. So creating the self-respect is also one of the main contribution to remove the untouchabilities in the society. Second one is education. For Baba Sahib, knowledge is a liberating force. So one of the reason for degradation of untouchables was that they were denied the advantage of education. He criticized the British for not doing enough for the education of the lower caste. He insisted on secular education to instill value of liberty and equality among the student. So education is the second step or second method to adopt the removal of untouchabilities. Next, third one is economic progress. He wanted untouchable to free themselves from the bondage of the village community and traditional job. He wanted them to achieve a new skills and start a new profession and move to cities to make advantage of industrialization. He described villages as a sink of a localism. He described the villages as a sink of a localism, a den of ignorance, narrow-mindedness, and the communalism. So, by the economic progress, also he tried to remove the untouchabilities in the society because of various factors. Next, a political strength. So political strength, how it is reduce the untouchabilities in the society. He wanted to untouchable to organize themselves politically. With a political power, untouchables would be able to protect, safeguard, and introduce a new emancipatory policies. So they can introduce a new emancipatory policies in political level. So they can remove the untouchability in the society. Because of that, they can reduce the untouchability or remove the untouchability in the society. Okay, so here you should see the Baba Sahib Ambedkar, he is not going to reduce the effect of untouchabilities, but so hardly he put effort to remove the untouchabilities in the society. Okay, next, conversion. So how? So which kind of conversion we can see in the society by the contributions of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So first one is when he realized that Hinduism is not able to mend its ways. So when the Hindus are not meant to its ways, ಯಾವಾಗ ಅವರ ದಾರಿಯನ್ನು ಸರಿಪಡಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ವೋ, he adopted Buddhism and asked his followers to do the same. For him, Buddhism was based on the humanism and believed in the spirit of equality and fraternity. So Buddhism based on the humanism and believed in the spirit of equality and fraternity. So second one is I am reborn, rejecting the religion of my birth. So I am reborn and rejecting the religion of my birth. Religion of my birth. ನಾನು ಮರು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಾನು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಧರ್ಮವನ್ನು ರಿಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ರಿಜೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ರಿಲಿಜನ್. ಸೊ ರಿಜೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ರಿಲಿಜನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಬರ್ತ್. ನಾನು ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಧರ್ಮವನ್ನು ನಾನು ರಿಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಸೊ ಐ ಡಿಸ್ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ದ ರಿಲಿಜನ್ so which discriminates between a man man and which treats me as inferior. So which treat me as inferior. So inferior complex again treat ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು. So at the social level, education and at the material level, new means of livelihood. At political level, political organization, and the spiritual level, self-assertion and conversion constituted an overall program of the removal of untouchabilities. So let's see the ideology of Swami Vivekananda. So brief introductions about the Swami Vivekananda. Vivekananda was born Narendranath Datta on 12 January 1863. He was a monk and chief disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. ಸೊ ಡಿಸೈಪಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಶಿಷ್ಯರಾಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪರಮಹಂಸರ ಶಿಷ್ಯರಾಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ. He introduced Indian philosophies of Vedanta and yoga to the Western world and is credited with a rising interfaith awareness, bringing Hinduism to the world stage during the late 19th century. Yes, so dear students, we know already the Swami Vivekananda introduced the Vedanta and yoga to the countries or Western countries. So Vedanta indicates what it is. So it was based on Upanishads and their interpretations. So it was based on Upanishads and their interpretations. Vedanta means nothing but it is based on Upanishads and their interpretation. Upanishads interpretations. So its aims was to inquire about the Brahman. So its aim was to inquire about the Brahman or ultimate reality. So which was the central concept of Upanishads. That is the central concept of Upanishads. So it saw Veda as the ultimate source of information and whose authority would not be questioned. So it saw a Veda as the ultimate source of information and whose authority could not be questioned. So it emphasized on path of knowledge or jnana as opposite to that of sacrifice. Opposite to that, a sacrifice. Ultimate aim of knowledge was a moksha. The main aim of knowledge was a moksha. In example, a liberation from a sansara. Liberation from a sansara. So he established a Ramakrishna mission 1987. So he established Ramakrishna mission in 1987. So we know already why he established the Ramakrishna mission, because he is a chief disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Okay, so named after his guru Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the institution did extensive educational and the philanthropic work in India. Okay, the institution did extensive educational and the philanthropic work in India. So by that institution, we can see the service of the educational and the philanthropic work in India. He also represented India in the first parliament of a religion held in Chicago. So he also represented India in the first parliament of a religion held in Chicago, US in 1893. Yes, let's see the core value of Swami Vivekananda's philosophies. His philosophies include some core values. So which of these? The first one is the ethics. Niti Shastra anta ನಾವು ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಇವರ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಹೊಂದಿಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. So ethics tells what? So morality in both individual life and social life is mostly based on a fear of social censure, societal censure or a social censure. So, but Vivekananda gave a new theory of ethics and new principles of morality based on the intrinsic intrinsic purity and oneness of the Atma. Ethics, according to Vivekananda, was a nothing but a code of conduct that helps a man to be a good citizen. So, ethics, according to the Vivekananda, so code of conduct, so that helps a man to be a good citizen. So, if we consider that, the quality of the citizen is good, so that is based on the ethical qualities, that is based on ethical qualities, according to whom? According to Vivekananda. So we should be pure because purity is our real nature, our true divine, a self or Atman.
So it is next core value of Swami Vivekananda's philosophy, that is education. That is education. Swami Vivekananda laid the greatest emphasis on education for the regenerations of our motherland. According to him, a nation is advanced in proportions as education is spread among the masses. He said that our process of education should be such that it helps the student to manifest their innate knowledge and power. He advocated a man making character building education. He said that education must make the student a self-reliant and help them face the challenges of life. He was highly critical of so called it as who do not care for the poor and downtrodden. So next core value is rationality. He was in a complete agreement with method and results of modern science. He did not discard our reasons in favor of faith. He recognized the institution or inspiration as a higher faculty than reason, but the truth derived from institution had to be explained and systemized by a reason. Okay, next, move on to the next slide. So next core value is it's about nationalism. Though growth of nationalism is attributed to the Western influence, but Swami Vivekananda's nationalism is deeply rooted in the Indian spirituality and morality. His nationalism is based on a humanism and universalism, to the two cardinal features of Indian spiritual culture. Unlike a Western nationalism, which is a secular in nature, Swami Vivekananda's nationalism is based on the religion, which is a lifeblood of the Indian people. The basis of his nationalism are: the first one is a deep concern for a masses, freedom, and the equality through which one express self, spiritual integrations of the world on the basis of universal brotherhood. Karma Yoga, a system of ethics. Second one is the Karma Yoga, a system of ethics to attain freedom, both political and spiritual, through a self-services. So his writings and speeches establish a motherland as the only deity to the worship in the mind and heart of countryman. Hearts of countryman. So next, move on to the next slide. So that tells the one more core value of Vivekananda's philosophy. Youth. So youth is also one of the core value of Vivekananda's philosophy. So Vivekananda gave a lots of words to a youth. So youth can do anything. So there is the imagination of Swami Vivekananda, but it is not a fake. It's a true word, isn't it? Swamiji believed that if our youth is determined, so there can be nothing impossible for them to achieve in the world. So that is a true word. So if youths are determined, so they should particular about their determination. So then only it happens. So he urged the youth have a dedication to the cause to attain a success. Pursuing a challenge with utmost dedication is really the road of success for our youth. Hence, a Swamiji called upon the youth
to not only build up their mental energies, but their physical ones as well. He wanted muscles of iron as well as nerves of steel. His birthday on January 12 is celebrated as a National Youth Day, and the week commencing from that day is known as a National Youth Week. As part of National Youth Week celebration, the Government of India holds the National Youth Festival every year. The Youth Festival aims to propagate the concept of national integration, spirit of communal harmony, brotherhood, courage, and adventure amongst the youths by exhibiting their cultural powers, cultural prose in a common platform. So prose, in the sense, it's like shaurya anta ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. So prose in a common platform. Okay. So these are all about the core values of Vivekananda's philosophy. So sometimes this philosophy is very helpful to the society to follow or develop their ethical values in the society. Okay. Yes. So dear students, I think it's enough for today. I hope you understand the concept. So if any doubts, so you can ask the questions either online or offline. So we will meet in next class. Till that time, bye bye. Have a nice day. Thank you.